I welcome all of you to this virtual interaction and this show where we discuss the latest trends in the worlds of cutting technology and where it is headed. I'm your host for the day. My name is Muqbil Ahmar, Executive Editor, Dynamics CIO and Greyhead Media. First of all, I sincerely wish and hope that all of you are safe and secure in your homes, wherever there are restrictions in place. The topic for today's discussion is how you can power your organization with automation and how it is transforming industries across the globe and very rapidly. We also know that in these trying times, it can be a challenge for organizations to maintain business continuity, timelines, and productivity. In such a context, mission critical operations need advanced reliability, network, and uptime performance. An automated process is something which can not only help enterprises drive something like agility and economic value, but it also provides seamless working and extremely high levels of interoperability. So, emerging technologies, for example, automation, RPA, robotic process automation, can bring a tremendous amount of value for organizations in terms of cutting down processes and doing away with a lot of work that can be largely called repetitive in nature and can be arduous for humans. Thus, I feel that there is a tremendous potential in bringing in automation, particularly in today's technology landscape, which is highly complex, and we all know that and would appreciate. To discuss all this, I have with me a very interesting lineup of extremely knowledgeable and very insightful speakers. I have with me Mr. Suresh de Silva, CEO, EGUARDIAN, which is a leading distributor of cutting-edge technologies in Sri Lanka, and Murli Mohan, Vice President, India Business, UiPath. Of course, everyone knows UiPath, which is a leader in automation technologies. So first bringing in Suresh. Hi, Suresh. Hi, Murli.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you, Muqbil, for having us.
So coming to you, Suresh, first of all, we would like to have your thoughts on something like how has the COVID situation, has it really spurred a demand in automation technologies? Has something like that happened over there?
So yes, with COVID-19, we have seen it has been like an eye-opener for many enterprises across all sectors. Organizations are like looking how to go out of the business, look at their business where there's less human dependencies, but ensuring business continuity. So these are the dilemmas that they are having. They've been having customers who are exploring RPA. So just a few months before the lockdown, there were a lot of customers who were looking at RPA, but were quite laid back, thinking, okay, we can look at it in the next financial year and so on. But what happened with the lockdown is that they started putting the rest of the projects on the back burner and wanted to see how they can implement RPA fast. Because like I said, there was less human dependency, and also they wanted to ensure business continuity. One of the key sectors that got really hit by the pandemic was our apparel sector. So there are quite a lot of apparel. As you know, Sri Lanka is known for the apparel industry. And during this time, and even now, we are seeing a lot of apparel organization actually joining hands with UiPath in the automation journey.
Right, Suresh. So you say that there has been a remarkable or significant impact of the current situations. So taking this argument a little further, what are the key changes that you are observing in customer demands, particularly in the last few months?
Okay, so if you look at the customers that we used to have, or what we were looking at is, we always looked at the low-hanging fruits, where it was mainly the financial processes that needs to be automated. Even still, it's the same. But companies are looking at different areas. They're looking at faster implementation. How can they implement RPA faster than what it used to be or a couple of months ago? They're looking at demand to have a holistic view about the cost benefit, automation to justify the investment. These are things that they are looking at. So with UiPath, we are seeing, especially with the uh, cloud automation, we see a lot of companies looking at moving or seeing it's cost effective to look at RPA into changing into automation. We also see the process discovery cost benefits that these guys, all the customers are getting, because they don't have to go through the entire process discovery. A few months back or about a year back, when you're looking at it, it took a long time for the process discovery, but now that has taken a shorter time. So the demands that the customers are asking for a shorter period, a cost-effective way, are things that I think UiPath can handle through the new technologies or the new products and services that they're bringing in. Especially we see in the SMB sector, we see quite a good demand, and I think that is something that we need to look at. And with the cloud adaptation, I think that is an area that we can look giving a solution which is cost effective.
Right, Suresh. So you spoke about cloud adoption, you spoke about shorter demand times. At this point of time, I would really want to bring in Murli also into the discussion. Of course, UiPath is one of the leaders of in automation technologies, and being a technology leader in your own right, I think you will be able to provide a really a bird's eye view of what is happening in the aftermath of the pandemic. So Murli, uh, I would like to have your thoughts on my previous question about how the COVID situation has it made any changes, significant changes in demands as far as automation technologies are concerned.
So thanks, Muqbil. Thanks, Suresh, as well. And I think you set the context upfront very spot on, right? So let me take this in two parts very briefly, with your permission. The India perspective, and let me touch upon a little bit about the same from a Sri Lanka context. Uh, Short answer: has the situation spurred demand for automation? I think it's a resounding. Look at the world around us now. Remote working is the order. A lot of back office functions, HR, which are traditionally shy of automation, centric, very back office, are now being brought to the front from an automation need for automation point of view. There's a lot of thrust around this whole notion of finance transformation, whether it's reconciliation, whether it is managing your DSO in this day, managing cash is so critical. Everything that's got to do with finance transformation really being spurred through automation today. And I would also like to extend IT automation point of view. Resources not really on-site time, so you need to get the maximum benefits and availability out of your IT infrastructure. How do you make sure your data centers are being monitored and kept running without a hitch? If you look under the, if you just double click on each of the statements, it in so many ways talks about the need for automation. So yes, the short across the board. If I look at it from a Sri Lanka point of view, and I can just add to Suresh pointed out too, it's very unique, Muqbil. If you look at the Sri Lanka economy, largely driven by exports, like Suresh rightly said, and there's a lot of tourism, and that's one aspect of Sri Lanka and its business environment. The other is also, unlike India, where huge resource pool of skills, and both in terms of quantity and quality. Sri Lanka is quite unique in that sense, right? It's a smaller market from a consumption point of view, limited in terms of its skills, but tremendously potential-wise in terms of offer to the market, because through exports they serve the world. So because of their dependence on serving or catering to the global economy in a way through their exports, brings in a lot of need for automation in the Sri Lanka business, specifically in this the situation, the COVID situation that we are in. And it's also moved right from being let's the waters, let's see if this works in the past, to now being a C-level priority, because for companies there to double their businesses, you can't do it by throwing manpower. We address that point. The only way one can truly scale operation that is helping global companies process through automation. So it kind of fits like a glove in our overall strategy, Muqbil, to your point.
Right, right. So you did speak about this tremendous surge for demand and the applicability of automation technologies in a place like Sri Lanka. Keeping up with you and sticking to you for the time being, how is the evolution of the traditional RPA market taking place?
So would you like me to answer that from a India context or a Sri Lanka?
From Sri Lanka context.
So, okay, so Suresh is the expert. I will bring him in with your permission. But
yes,
to give you my perspective, look, we started at our humble beginnings in the Sri Lanka market, go back to, I think 2017 is we served our first client, one of our largest and most respected customer logo in Sri Lanka, MAS Holdings. And over the last, since then, if I quickly fast forward the chronology, we've had a number of customers coming on board, in tens of customers from the Sri Lanka market. Back then, it was to get across to customers because of the low knowledge base, not too much of skills among the partner ecosystem. If you look at what we have successfully done over the last one, which has actually led to the evolution of RPA in the Sri Lanka market, we have the number of people, the number of partners that we have helped set up with the help of Suresh and his team has actually proliferated automation, the need for automation messages across Sri Lanka enterprises. The huge surge in is also increased because of our focus on the academia. More than 1,500 individuals by registered to the UiPath Academy. We are working very closely in building just the enterprise footprint in corporate Sri Lanka, focusing on community development, looking at academia, looking at industry bodies. So this whole approach towards the customer set, the enterprise space, the coverage, and of course working with academia and community. If you look at these three together, leads to a huge surge and evolution of what we have seen automation as a category move from 2017 until now in Sri Lanka. Sorry, Muqbil, you're on mute.
One second. Yeah, so excellent points made. Of course, that is the way to go about it. I think that these are extremely noble initiatives that you spoke about, cultivating communities and cultivating ties with the academia and institutions. And of course, this lays a lot of groundwork for the evolution of this technology. So, Suresh, your thoughts on the question that I posed to Murli, and would you like to elaborate and add to it?
Yeah, so actually, like Murli said, my interaction was, of course, after MAS was signed in 2017. My interaction with UiPath was, I think, late 2018. So when I had the chat with, I always tell my guys that when you had the chat with the UiPath in 2018, I was also not sure about RPA, and of course, and from UiPath also didn't know what kind of potential there was in Sri Lanka. So what we both decided is, look, we'll take 2019. Let's take 2019 as an year to evangelize the product, the services, what RPA is, and probably we'll start getting business in 2020. But it was quite the opposite. We saw the adoption of RPA taking up early 2019, and we are seeing a huge, very good growth in the market now. If you look at all the logos that we have, are the top enterprises in the Sri Lankan market. So I think the market here is mature than even what I thought. And I think that is something that we will go on seeing in the next couple of years, that this is an area that personally for eGuardian, I think this is a growth area. UiPath is going to be one of our key products in the in the eGuardian belt. And I also want to add about the UiPath Academy. That has really helped, and the community has really helped to grow the number in Sri Lanka of the resources that we have. So that is one of the key areas that why UiPath is number one in Sri Lanka, and of course in the world.
Right. So Suresh, you spoke generally about how the rate of adoption of something like RPA has really shot up, and how it's building on. Would you like to add more specifics to your elaboration? Like adoption rates of RPA in the Sri Lankan market.
Okay, so I would say the information that I have looked at is we are seeing the cloud adoption automation in RPA is slowly taking over. So in the last couple of months, or the last couple of months, whatever customers that we have signed up with UiPath, all are moving into, most of them are moving into the cloud offering. So that would be about 40%. And I think by end of early 2021, our gut feeling, or with the statistics that we have, we should be hitting around 60% of that should be on automation, cloud automation. But what even though I don't have the numbers, what I can say is it is a growing area. People have understood automation is required in all enterprises. But what I'm also seeing is that the SMB side is something that we need to look at, which we can't ignore. There's huge potential in the market in the SMB sector.
Right, Suresh. So this is a very interesting thought, and something that you have reiterated and repeated in your comments over the past 20 minutes or so. And I would like to bring in Murli into the discussions at this point. For example, Suresh has repeatedly spoken about how cloud adoption is really fueling the demand for automation technologies, and how big of an impact it is having in that sense. Would you like to add your thoughts on to this, Murli, because this is something which is repeatedly coming up?
So I think Suresh is right, and it's a unique that we are seeing in Sri Lanka. There is a lot of inhabited exposure and adoption of cloud is making the initial resistance as far as cost and infrastructure investment towards automation adoption much easier. And I think Suresh is right. One of the factors that's leading to increased and relatively speedier time to market for automation adoption in the Sri Lanka market is really given by the fact that they're more open and more progressive as far as cloud is concerned. And we're seeing this not just in core enterprise organizations, but across of industry, including government, so including banks, public sector, and government, very clearly, very consistent in this behavior. So I think I completely agree with that very precise observation around how cloud and related adoption is fueling automation for us.
Right. So Murli, you spoke about cloud adoption and how it is fueling automation technologies. So what are some of the other innovative ways of implementation of automation technologies and strategies?
Okay, so let me paraphrase this very quickly in terms of the current situation that we are in. The COVID environment, I've seen some very innovative ways of going and addressing today's problems, right? So we've seen customers we have something called a health bot in our environment, which actually is a bot that pops up every Monday morning and checks on my health, checks my parameters, reports to HR, so that HR can keep a record of how I am progressing. Similar to what the government is trying to do, the positive cases out there. Then I've seen another application of automation in this COVID scenario where we're actually helping governments in looking at how do we make this analytics around data being collected on this huge surge of cases. Just look at India, right? I mean, I think we beat 84,000 cases in one day as yesterday, number of cases. So with that huge surge across the how do you make sure this information is consolidated and fed into the national data? It's a very, very automation centric exercise. We're asking a space for a lot of automation in this area. But if I just move away from the COVID piece, I come across a lot of interesting cases. In Sri Lanka, for example, MA spoke about very clearly, very early on. I mean, they have more than 50 processes they are automating using UiPath, and this is a plethora of use cases. But what's most interesting is they have actually seen benefits of over 14,000 man days of activity on an annual basis. I mean, this is staggering. If you just look at the math, the savings and the efficiencies, this case speaks for itself. Coming to smaller mid-market organizations, but very effectively using automation. We have an organization in the south of India called Sri Malani Foam. So they're into polyurethane foam for mattresses, right? And the entire process of the backend process of emails and the whole work in the command center for making the shipment of goods to their warehouses. The entire workflow is managed through a set of bots, right? We have customers like the large enterprise customers, Bajaj Allianz, for example. I mean, they got to know that in this era when the role of the supervisor is being compromised because you're not in front of me anymore. So how do I make that I spot where the inefficiencies are in my workforce? How do I make sure that I have the right work assigned to the right workforce member in my team, though I don't see them on a daily basis? Robots, software bots actually dynamically allocating work to Bajaj agents across the country, depending on how much load they already have. It's now the whole notion of monitoring, as we have traditionally known, is now being done. So there are so many, lot of various examples. Muqbil, I'm very passionate about this on and on, but it's interesting to see the number of innovative use cases that come by and add to our repository of relating it to other customers. Sri Lanka is no different. A huge number of innovative use cases come from Sri Lanka as well.
Right. I can see the passion in the way you elaborated on the various innovative ways. In fact, one of the ways that you spoke about right in the beginning about vital parameters being, sent to the HR, and so I think the days are numbered of people calling in sick very frequently.
Yeah, I have a bot that's picking on me, by the way. Yes, right.
Very innovative use case. I see that. So, Murli, sticking on to you for the time being, what are the, any industry-specific nuances that you would like to share, especially do you see a business model change which has been enabled by this reformed tech agenda?
See, okay, again, balance this between what I see in India very briefly and from Sri Lanka as well. So overall in India, we've seen this industry in certain areas. BFSI has been a traditional adoption, and for obvious reasons.
Yes, of course.
Insurance is big, and everything you transact life is through a bank or banking process. So, but there are a lot of other industries that have come to front. Pharma, I've always maintained, is one such. Healthcare overall, government public sector are really coming to the party, and you'll see that adoption surge months and years to come. On the Sri Lanka side, I think I've seen a huge surge, and this is wait and watch. You'll see a lot of this coming about in FSI space in Sri Lanka, both on the private sector, government sector. You will see a lot of components being driven, especially in the area of customer service, customer onboarding, loan processing. Very, very centric going forward is my personal view of what to industry wise. But if I can just move away from industry for a brief second and see the reality of what's happening around us, right? Both our economies, whether Sri Lanka, India, very document centric economies. If you look at the past, document understanding, how do you get more extracted value out of documents so that they can be more efficiently, faster, to get more competitive advantage. Document understanding is coming to the party in a very big way, if you ask me. The other is the automation I spoke about in the beginning. More and more customers are looking at finding their core competencies or their workforce focused on core competencies and letting some of the bots manage the monitoring of their IT in more ways than one. The next only other thing I'll add here from a technology nuance, is in the area of cybersecurity. This goes parallel, hand in hand, automation, because a large amount of cyber security, the promise is delivered automation. So that's another hugely emerging trend and huge amount of automation being already developed and would make for the next series of headlines in this part of the world going forward.
Right, Murli. Thank you. I think you added a very vital point from your side, which I really like, which is about cybersecurity. Of course, as the rates of digitalization increase, right, and as digital presences increase across countries, across industries, across sectors, the likelihood of cyber crimes, as we have already witnessed in the past few months, that cyber crimes and data breaches and leakages, they have really seen an upsurge, so to speak. And also I see a lot of possibility of automation in the way cybersecurity runs. Currently it's quite human centric, where there are reports, and then there are leakages, and then there are incidents, and how they analyze. I think there is scope for a lot of automation where the false positives or things like those can actually be filtered out at a very basic level, and then a human intervention can really make sense, and actually decrease the load on cybersecurity practitioners and enthusiasts. This is a very wonderful point that you added, Murli. Thank you so much. Moving on to Suresh. So Suresh, we spoke how the market is changing, how the customer demands are witnessing an upsurge and a hike and a spike. So what do you think, to your mind, what is the future of channel partners, and what are the ensuing strategies that companies are putting in place? What are your strategies?
Okay, so we go back again, say to 2018, when we signed up with UiPath for as a distributor. So we were very excited to take it to our existing partners in the market. So we have about 75 plus partners who are signed with us. So we initially started taking UiPath to these partners to enable them to talk about the product and so on. But what we realize is these system integrators did not embrace the technology initially. So what we proposed, what we put across to them, they didn't either understand or they didn't want to, because they already had some revenue streams coming in. So even now, even after 2 years, you will probably find only a few of those system integrators that have adapted in and become a partner of UiPath. So then we of course changed the strategy, and we looked at all ERP solution providers, software development organizations, and we started speaking to them. And then we realized these guys understand what we are talking about. So today, if you look at most of the partners that we have, are partners who are already taking ERP, or a software company who are going to the market and evangelizing or selling UiPath. So it's a total different strategy, which even we were not used to, that we are taking. So we have, I would say, signed up with about 10 new partners with us, just only for UiPath. And we are seeing their strategy is totally different to our traditional SIs. We also have our consulting organizations expanding their teams. They've realized that there's a huge business in the consulting side. So we are working very closely with some of these large global consulting companies who want to take RPA to the market, to their large customers. So that's what we're doing now.
Right, Suresh. So the future looks rosy. I would invite Murli to add on his thoughts to this question, and particularly keeping in mind that UiPath is really entering into new markets and building new strategies. So, from a strategic point of view, how are you looking at things? What strategies are you putting in place? How are you really going about capturing that market?
So, great question, Muqbil. And at the outset, tell you, our growth would not have been what it is had it not been for our partners. So, all the success that we're seeing in the region, our partners are along with us every step of the way. And Suresh and EGUARDIAN has been right on top as far as we have negotiated the Sri Lanka market. So that's as far as continuing the partnership model, because clearly that's our best way to cover a large amount of ground. But if I just move there, a couple of things. One is we will continue to land and expand. A lot of our customers tasted blood, initial ROI and initial testing the water has been more or less done or is post the pilot phase. So we're looking at them to the next stage. We take a lot of pride in going and align, having these industry partnerships. Suresh mentioned this briefly in the beginning as well, but the Chartered Accountants Association in Sri Lanka, it's called SEMA. We work very closely with them. Their software IT industry body in Sri Lanka, we work very closely with them. Like I said at the beginning, more than 1,500 individuals already enrolled in the UiPath Academy. We recently concluded this week the UiPath Developer Conference, a huge amount of surge of participation from our part of the world, and no different for our colleagues and our automation enthusiasts from Sri Lanka. So we are doing a lot as part of our growth strategy. We want to further improve the services capability of our in keeping with a huge surge in the capability that we are in. If you look at the portfolio over the last 1 year, the UiPath portfolio has gone through you've added discovery, you've added analytics. Now, 2 days ago, we announced our UiPath apps platform. So a lot of new capabilities are being brought in, and we want to that our ecosystem of valued partners is with us in terms of building that services capability. And lastly, we also want to harness, from a Sri Lanka point of view, the potential that they bring in delivering managed services. Again, that's an example of what they already do very well. But since a large part of their business is export, serving markets elsewhere, managed services is a logical extension, and we see that also as a growth. Apart from working very closely with the top academic institutions in Sri Lanka. So all of these, enterprise focus, building partner capability, well as working with the ecosystem, academia, and industry bodies. In a that's really our core strategy.
Right, right, Murli. So, of course, you rightly pointed out the significance and importance of building and cultivating the entire ecosystem, which would support and promote these emerging technologies. So, winding up this discussion, Suresh, any parting thoughts that you would like to add at this point of time?
So, from a Sri Lanka market perspective, I think for us, clearly UiPath is seen as a leader in automation, but what we see is that what UiPath as a company is bringing to Sri Lanka, the resources and the support that gives in is one of the reasons that we are being number one. That is, and also once again, I want to reiterate that the reason is the UiPath Academy, as well as the community they have has actually tremendously helped UiPath to grow in Sri Lanka. And again, I would like to say that eGuardian looks at UiPath as one of the key products in their portfolio, and we will probably in the next 2 to 3 years see a huge growth in the market. And Murli, thank you very much for all your support, you and the team who support Sri Lanka for making this possible.
So, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a lovely, lovely discussion. Thank you, Suresh, Murli, for your brilliant and highly insightful answers. And we really got a sense of what really is happening in the world of technology, particularly in the context of automation technologies and RPA, which is robotic process automation, what all is happening and what are the latest trends in these areas. Thank you all for joining us today. It's been a lovely experience interacting with both of you.
Thank you, Muqbil.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Murli. Thank you, Suresh.